Awesome.
Alrighty, let's get going. So thank you all for joining us. And for those who aren't here right now, we're going to be recording it. So it'll definitely be, I think we're going to be uploading it to YouTube for further viewing later. And away we go. So this webinar is for marketing technical assistance for Open Farm Week. And we found that over the last couple of years, people have been asking about marketing versus event technical assistance, about things going on in the farm and how to prepare for an event. So we thought we'd have this sort of webinar. My name is Pereira. See, there's two of me there. I'm the executive director of Vermont Network. My background actually is marketing and communications. I really like visual communication. I started out in video, and so I really love the visual. But I'm looking forward to chatting about social media and all of that with everyone. And we'll go on to, and then we have Shane.
Hi, my name's Shane. I'm the Rooted in Vermont project manager. And for those not familiar with Rooted in Vermont, it's a program of the Vermont Farm to Plate Network, where we're working to help increase the demand for local food here throughout the state.
Cool. And so Open Farm Week this is its 5th year. Let's move on to, I'll go back to this one for a second. Open Farm Week, this is its 5th year, which is great. And it lives on the diginvt.com site, diginvermont.com, which is a website for agritourism. And Vermont Fresh Network manages the site, but we work with a number of groups, Shane and I and NOFA and Agents Bag, to develop and work together on Open Farm Week. So, marketing. Okay, so I'm going to start a little bit, and then Shane, you jump in when you want to, and we'll go from there. So, sometimes when I talk about marketing and communications with small businesses and just people, I'll say, hey, do you do any marketing? And sometimes they'll say no. And then I'll be like, really? And then they'll say like, oh, well, actually I do advertising. I'm like, okay, so that's marketing. And then they'll say, well, actually I sponsor the local soft baseball team. I'm like, well, that's another type. So what is it? What is marketing? It's a lot of different things. And it's social media, it's your logo, it's just every interaction you have with your community, your customer. And it helps you basically, if you want to build awareness of your event. Hello?
Hi, Tara.
Okay. So are you okay? Oh, okay. Now, if you're wondering like what works for me and should I pick one or not, you can't just pick one. Communication, everyone takes in information differently. And so it's good to, it's good to kind of use a lot of different types. I think of it kind of as a big jigsaw puzzle, and the more little pieces you add to it, the greater people will understand. Okay, Shane, do you want to jump in at all? Do you have any comments on what we were talking about?
Sorry, I had muted myself. I think that also it's important to remember that your one-on-one interaction with your customers, with your friends in your community is also part of that bigger marketing strategy as well. Anytime that you're shaking someone's hand or making eye contact, that goes a really long way in helping people make that connection back to the farm, and in turn to the events that you're going to be putting on there and your own viability on that.
Yeah. It really shouldn't change too. So what I mean by that is if you speak a certain way at the farmer's market, or you interact with, on social media a certain way as regards your farm and who you are, you should try to be consistent. If you're friendly at the farmer's market and you want to meet people, just keep that overall communication connection there with all of whatever you choose, whatever channel you choose. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask or type in the chat box. So where do you start in regards to marketing? And as you can see here, step one is you begin at the end with, which sounds funny, but it's true. What do you want to get out of what you're doing, right? And I'm just going to skip through here. It's like, what's your goal? So you're having an event. Do you want to? Do you have a new farm? Do you want to build awareness of it? Do you want to sell more of a certain product that you make? Do you want to overall just, increase the number of people signed up for your CSA, or add names to your email contact list so you can reach out more? So those are all different ways to think about it. And what's nice about Open Farm Week is this is a great way to dip your toe into inviting people to your farm. So it's just something to think about as you move along in communication. And so as an example, if you want to, let's say you have a farm stay, I'm just going to use it, and you want to build awareness of it. So you probably get the word out on social media, have an open house event during Open Farm Week, or a tour, have flyers out. You want to just kind of get your messaging and the information out there to various areas of various communities. But then what do you say? Like, what's your story? And, storytelling is a big part of marketing. I think it's one of the most important parts of marketing, and you can do it in a lot of different ways, which is great. I was talking about in the beginning, I really love the visual. So I love taking pictures and telling stories that way. Some people prefer to write, but why is it important? And I had to put up the little girl with the chicken because it's like the cutest picture. And that's a great example. Let me just say that image is a great picture on social, can get you far with kids and animals, right? Would you say, Shane?
I would definitely say, or kids in large vegetables.
Kids in large vegetables or kids and animals. Yeah, social media gold right there. Anyway, so storytelling translates your marketing into, it helps you engage with your community. It brings about an engaging narrative, and it helps to build an emotional connection. Now, how do you tell it? I'm kind of going through this. This is more the high level stuff, and we'll get into the nitty gritty in a bit. But how do you tell the story? Like, who's your audience? Are you having an on-farm dinner? Do you want couples to come? Are you having a tour on your farm to show that's aimed at kids, or to see the baby animals, or cooking class? So, depending on who you're speaking to, that's an important part of things. If you have a hops farm and you're having a tour of your hops farm, perhaps you wanted to talk to the people interested in Vermont beers. So that comes into play. So once you have your audience and your target, who you want to talk about messaging, and figure out what is the action you want people to take. Do you want people to buy tickets? Do you want people to show up? Do you want people to share your event on social? And then how do you do that, right? So Shane, do you want to talk about taking stock?
Definitely. And I think as we kind of move into the more, how do we start to implement everything that Tara's talking about, what has always been really helpful for me doing this work and doing any of like the work outside of this, it's just taking the moment to write it down. The answers to these questions are all relatively simple and straightforward. But when I have them written down, it helps me go back to it, and it helps you run through the list as you're trying to figure out where and what you have time to do and how much you want to invest into getting the word out. So for our purposes here, it's relatively easy. Your goal, right, is to have people show up to the farm for your Open Farm Week event. And what you end up doing after you take that time to get that story is we want to like sit there and kind of take stock of exactly what you are already doing in your community to be able to not only get the word out, but just how you're interacting every day. So this, again, is as simple as creating a bulletin list, and can run from the very easy things such as you have a farm Facebook, or you have an Instagram or a Twitter account, to you belong to a club, or you attend town meetings. So as you sit down and think about how you want to get the word out into your community, we've started a small list here that can only grow. So, like I said, this includes that farm or business Facebook. It includes your own social media account, the one that you connect with your friends and family. If you have a CSA list or a customer email or mailing list, when you're having people pick up or drop off bags for CSA, if you run a farm stand, your farmer's market booth, the people you attend church with, those who are part of your wholesale market, front porch forum, and obviously the list can keep going on and on and on. And we say all this, and I put this all out there because I want everybody to understand literally how much you are already doing. I know many of you, when you're looking at this, probably can check off over 3/4 of the stuff that's listed here, and there are things that are popping up in your head as so those.
Let me just say, I was going to say, Shane.
Yeah.
And this is mentioned. You mentioned wholesale market. I would say that an example of that would basically. I just want to give an example. So let's say you grow a specific vegetable, or I was talking about hops because Kathleen has a hops farm. But if there's a brewery nearby that uses your hops, or if there's a restaurant nearby that offers your cheese, that's a perfect place to be able to talk to the restaurant owner, the chef, and just say, hey, I'm having this event. People really are interested. They can come and see where the cheese is made or where this comes from. So making that connections that way, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's as you see from your interactions, whether it's at the farm market or the farm stand, people throughout the state and visitors that are coming into the state crave interaction with our farmers here and the people that are doing the great work to grow our food and raise the animals for our food. So it's really taking account of everything that you're doing and leveraging that in a way that'll allow you to just kind of get the word out bit by bit over and over. And again, the whole point of listing all this out is not to seem overwhelming, but for everybody to kind of think about what you do on a daily basis, where you're interacting with people out in, or where you're able to make those connections, that it would be easy enough to slip in that your event is happening. And I also say this because a lot of people, when they think about promoting, they think about social media right away. And honestly, social media can be a great tool, such as like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, but it's by no means the only tool. I can't exude the benefits enough of using Front Porch Forum or being able to just have that conversation with members of your church.
Oh, do you want to talk about the next slide?
Sure. Yeah. So as Tara was mentioning, telling your story, again, when it comes down to being able to get your word out about your event, you're going to want to, again, take stock and lead with your strengths. As Tara was mentioning, she loves to take photography. She loves to take photos to be able to put up when she's doing outreach events. Me personally, I'm not a photog, and I like writing, and I like the interactions of one-on-one as they're listed here. So we really want to encourage you to not feel like you have to step outside your comfort zone in order to be able to get people to show up to your event. You can really lead with the things that not only you enjoy doing, but that you're really good at doing without having to feel stressed or overwhelmed trying to do things that you don't particularly like to do. If you're not down, if you don't really want to sit down and write 500 words on a blog post because A, you don't do it normally, and B, that just does not sound like your idea of a good time, definitely don't do it, because that is just time that you're taking up and stress that you're putting on yourself that you could be pumping into, say, taking beautiful photographs that you're posting all around the
community. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that, as you were saying, even you should definitely lead with your strengths, as we discuss. And if you like one-on-one, and whatever you like to do, you should definitely do that. But that doesn't mean that you can't branch out a little bit. Let's say, Shane, you were talking about writing. Let's say you like to write, and you're like, well, okay, I'm going to try doing some photography and just simple stuff. But I think the key here is coming up with a manageable plan, and not to do everything at once, because that won't work. But it's always good to learn new things and challenge yourself, but do it in such a way that it seems natural with your schedule, or natural with how you want to move forward. And part of this too is, when you lead with your strengths, or talking about what you should do, is coming up with a template for future events, or just kind of basically, if you are taking a bunch of pictures, you'll be able to use those pictures again next year. Take some pictures in the winter, take seasonal pictures, build a content library so that you always have something to pick from. And you'll never, let's say you have a Facebook post and you're like, oh, I want to say something about, summer, July, and in the summertime. You can look at last year's picture and be like, oh yeah, I have something to go and send out. So it's just something, setting yourself up for future success, but also building kind of just a foundation and a library of something to choose from in the future. And let's talk about social. Shane, you want to, which one? What do I do?
Yeah, I think that, again, when people think about outreach, specifically for events, I think everybody kind of jumps immediately to social media, right? Everybody is told, oh, you need to have social media. You have to, you're not doing Instagram, you're not doing Facebook. Like, how can you not possibly be on these platforms? And again, I think to our point earlier is that if you are not currently using social media as a source for your outreach, then don't feel like you need to just jump right in and to be able to create a Facebook page for your event that is happening right now. Because what is going to end up happening is that you're not going to find like the type of engagement that you're looking for. And instead, this comes to, as Tara mentioned, taking that plan, and if social media is going to be something that you want to do in the future, planning that out for how that's going to work. Now, I think a lot of people that are going to be tuning into this or on this call probably do have some type of social media presence. One of the biggest things, especially when it comes to marketing an event, is just making sure that you're creating an event actually on Facebook. I think that's going to be one of the biggest ways for you to get the word out about your community. I think it's something like 70% of Americans, or 80% of Americans, are on Facebook and logging in daily. Well, there we go.
I just happen to have that. Yeah, I just, and there's LinkedIn here, but we don't have to talk about LinkedIn. And there's so many networks and channels. So yeah, I think a Facebook event is always just the amount of people on Facebook, the age range, and it's good to have, an event basically. But if you aren't, like you're saying, if you're not doing social, that's okay. But it would be nice to at least have an event so that can be shared around, and you could even have a friend make it for you, basically.
Definitely. And I think one of the biggest things to realize about social media is that while it may feel redundant to you to keep posting the same photos and the same type of copy or the same story week after week, the reality is that the majority of those on social media are not seeing what you posted. So while it may feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again, you're actually probably reaching new people every single time that you post that. So going back to Tara's point about telling a good story, if you take those that little bit of time to conduct and write 3 really good sentences about your farm or about your event, you'll be able to reuse those sentences and you'll be able to reuse those photos over and over again leading up to this event in August. And that is something that we would encourage you to do, because again, this comes down to how are you going to use your time wisely and how are you trying to reach as many people as possible. It's easy to copy and paste, and that's a really good route to explore as you're looking into expanding your social media outreach.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and this refers back to something you were saying, Shane, but telling your story, so at Vermont Fresh Network and for Dig In, we have events that we often promote, or we have our own events rooted in Vermont. You have stuff. So what I like to do is come up with a little like toolkit, basically. And so I'll write I'll build a Word doc, basically, and I'll have the straight up who, what, where, why information, date, time, da, da, da. In addition, I'll have a longer description, and then I'll have like a short description, just because, if you're going to be on Front Porch Forum, that's a different, there's a different amount of words I might put on Front Porch Forum versus a calendar listing on, Vermont vacations. So I like to just have these little pieces that I can draw from. Similarly, of course, a Facebook, like 3 Facebook posts or a few Instagram posts. And from there, and that way you can kind of pick and choose and just, as you were saying, Shane, like copy and paste, basically, Mm-hmm. The idea of just having this stuff, these pieces of content in your back pocket, it's, like I said, setting the stage for if you were to do this event next year, basically. You can change the dates and tweak and go from there. That's basically, it's just kind of coming up with a little plan and, building upon it. So you were going to say. And so when we talk about social media too, though, often we have questions, and Shane, I'm sure you know about, when we talk about boosting your event.
Definitely. And just to touch on, Tara, kind of what you were saying, I think a lot of people ask for marketing help because it seems as if it's really hard and it's really like unreachable to be able to do it. And the reality is that it's all about making lists and it's all about running through your lists. So just taking some time in the beginning to be able to write out, like Tara said, some copy that you'll be able to use across all the platforms. So when it comes to now that you have your event created and you have your event listed on your Facebook, when it comes to like boosting your event or trying to like help spread the word, for a relatively little bit of money, if you're willing to put that in there, there are definitely ways to amplify your event to your community. And of course, again, when we think about boosting, we think about social media, and Facebook especially makes it very simple to be able to boost right on the page. They always add a button that says boost your event. And while we don't have the actual like screenshots, if you haven't ever done that before, we're happy to help you run through that, where we talk about picking your audience. You're able to put in specifically people that you think would like to know about your event, whether those are like local food people, people who like grass-fed beef. You're able to pick an age range and you're able to pick a region. And for as little as $5, you'll be able to reach at least 1,000 people that are in your area that will at least see your event as a way to be able to get the word out. And again, that's $5 investment to be able to put that in front of their eyes for people who may not have otherwise seen it.
Yeah.
Now,
I was gonna
go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I was also gonna say, like, if another way to consider like boosting your event, or, it's not necessarily social media boosting, but it's an idea to kind of get it in front of people's eyes. Like, let's say you're having a children's event, or a garden tour or something like that. Find the websites, like let's say kids event. You could go to kidsvt.com, and sometimes they will have they have a calendar there, and you could ask to it'll cost money, but have a featured event in the calendar basically. Or if let's say there is a specific farm newsletter that goes out or something like that through email, sometimes you can sponsor maybe a banner ad or something like that. Example, like if let's say you're into knitting or fiber, there's a lot of people who do knitting and all that sort of thing, and popular newsletters and websites. So that's another way to kind of think about boosting your event. It costs a little bit more than social though, and it really depends on the media outlet or how you're doing it. But that's another way to consider it.
And this comes down again to really taking stock of the different places that you're interacting with folks, and the different things that you interact with on your day-to-day, because there are literally untold amounts of opportunities to be able to pay a little bit of money to be able to have your event put in front of the eyes of those people that are also interested in the same things that you are. Yeah. And then this also comes down to really, kind of going back old school and paying a few bucks to print up some flyers with your event information. And thinking about stuffing those, say, in your CSA bags, stuffing those, bringing those to the farmer's market, putting them in your farm stand, or even taking some time and going around town and hanging them up on the bulletin boards.
Yeah, I can bring up an example, your example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have some for Open Farm Week. And so as you can see, there's everyone who participates in Open Farm Week gets a poster, they get postcards and things like that. But we're going to offer up these templates basically. And so it has the logo and information here, but there's also this little blank area that you can write in your own information about your event. And that's what you were talking about putting it up in the library or putting it in your CSA and things like that.
Just so you know, I don't think it came up on the screen.
It didn't?
No, I think you're sharing the presentation.
Got it. Okay, let me try that again then. Sorry about that. Okay, how's that?
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Because everyone's like, what are you talking about? So here's what I was talking about. So as you can see, there's the logo of Open Farm Week, and then there's this little blank area where you'd be able to, everyone could put their own information in, and whether it be put it up at the library or hand it out at, through your CSA, this can get the basic information of your event and be able to get that word out basically.
And again, I would just want to reiterate too that I know a lot of this stuff seems very basic and things that you're like, oh, well, of course I could do that. But in reality, I think Tara and I, when we do communications and marketing, that's what we get paid for, is running through those lists of the very basic things and making sure that we're getting it out there. So again, part of this is just trying to hopefully remind people of all the different avenues that are out there, and with just a little bit of time and taking that work that you put in to tell your story in the beginning and collect those photos, you're going to be able to increase your reach in a way that may seem unattainable right now, but as you start moving through it, it just becomes easier and easier, and something that you'll be able to integrate in your day-to-day as you begin doing more outreach like that.
Yeah. And as we can see from this slide, can you see the slide right now? Okay. Yeah. So collaboration builds community. So I mean, that alone is like, if you have friends who are on social, tell your friends to share your Facebook post or something like that. Or if you have, I was talking before, we were talking about wholesale partners, restaurants, or anyone you're working with, just say, ask them to help get the word out about your event or what you're doing. And, that will increase your reach. It'll get further out to whether the online community or just the people in town or the people close by, farmers market. This is all about working together, and let's say there's a farm down the road that's also having an event on a different day. Well, then you can both, work together to get the word out about each of your events. So that's just something to really consider and to get some help, basically. The fact is, too, if we're talking about Open Farm Week, Rooted in Vermont will be sharing social media posts. Dig in Vermont will be sharing social media posts. And I'm just talking social media, but this is a way to, get the word out to other areas of beyond your immediate group of community members. Certainly on the Dig In newsletter, when we promote Open Farm Week, we have an email list of 4,900 people. So some are in state, some are out of state, but it's about kind of getting out there and just having other people learn about what you're doing. So, and usually it needs to come from, what is the, I think people need to hear about something 4 or 5 times before they'll actually either buy it or do it or go somewhere. But it's true. And it's about, like I was saying, building that foundation. So
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think what you'll find too is as you work on building that type of collaboration amongst the community, there are other ways to be able to make those type of partnerships. So of course, reaching out to your local newspaper, which everybody reads still, and telling them about your event, or the local reporter, which you probably know, and they're always looking for content along those lines. As rather than just telling people to post on social media, asking people to post a front porch forum as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of creating a buzz. I think most of what marketing is and most of what communications is creating a buzz so people become more excited about it because they see it the first time and the second time and the third time, and then they start itching to be able to go to that event and see what this is all about. And I would, again, really highly suggest using the email list and the mailing list that you have in your business. So whether that's sending out a flyer to the list of people that you know in your community, that's another way for relatively cheap to boost your event. Or sending out 2 or 3 emails about what's going on and what's going to be coming up. The fact is, a lot of people want to come visit, and there's a reason why Open Farm Week has seen it grown and has been so successful, is because people want to see where their food is coming from, and people want to support all the great work that is going on throughout the state. So it just takes a little bit of time and a very small amount of money, if any, to kind of build up that excitement.
Yeah, and you were talking about lists before and coming up with lists, and
yeah,
it's I guess I think maybe it's a marketing thing. I don't know, I just make lists, lots of lists, and so that's involved just for managing projects. So part of that is also building a timeline. And if you come up with a timeline plan, then you don't have to think about it. Let's say you're 1 month out, you should build your Facebook, have your Facebook event, and post about it and share it. 2 weeks leading up, maybe have some of your friends post on Front Porch Forum, and also show some posts on Instagram or put up flyers in the library. It depends on, how you want to set up the timeline, but, I would say just, that's what I usually do, is just set up a timeline and 1 week before give it some extra boosting, maybe on social, or just, get some, you want to make people really excited to go to your event and participate. So
Have 5 of your friends post on Front Porch Forum that this is happening and they're excited.
yeah, yeah. And so we've been talking about the before, but I'm just going to touch on the during and the after, because those two are important also. So, and during the event, there are a couple of things you can do. Of course, you could have someone you work with just take pictures of people at the event doing things, happy pictures, of course, or animals and things like that. And either they can just post live to Instagram or Facebook, but more importantly, even is just have those pictures for the future, basically, and just keep them to work with to help you with promotion in the future. But also, this will help you in your post-event time period, basically. So after the event, there are a couple of things you do. You want to, usually what I like to do is I send a thank you out on social or through emails, like, thank you everyone for coming. If you're interested in learning to do more of these events, please sign up for our newsletter, or you want to keep that relationship, basically. But also after the event, post images of the event. Say, oh, we had a great time, and check out this cute picture, and we look forward to having more of these, just to kind of give people a big, beginning, middle, end. Like, so there will be more, and we had a great time, and but make sure you just respond in some way after the event, basically. That's what I think. And tag whatever partners you worked with, whether it's, if you're going to have, let's say you're having a on-farm dinner and there was a specific cheese you served, tag the cheesemaker, and that also they can share and thank you,
Right. And also this could include outside of social media, like putting up a thank you in your farm stand, or having a thank you at your farmer's market booth. Just kind of thanking the customers who showed up there, but also kind of piquing the interest of those who didn't end up making it. So it serves dual purposes.
The fear of missing out thing. Like, wait, I missed it? I'm going next year.
Exactly.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? This is where it comes down to staying in touch with the people who came. If there's a way to do it, you can, at the event or even at your farm stand or farmer's market, have a list of people who leave their email if they would like to learn about more things about your farm, or more events that you're happening or involved with. So this is a way to build those relationships. And, let's say you have a farm tour one year, and then later that year or years later, you want to incorporate a farm stay into your farm business. You'll have this email list to announce to people. And, it doesn't have to be a farm stay. It can be anything new about your farm, or just any way to keep that connection and continue to tell your story,
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's so important. And you never know what you'll learn from people, and by keeping those connections and just giving people a heads up on what's happening, it could lead to even more people, right? And you never know if it's a news story. Shane, you were talking about people reading the paper. Vermont local community papers I don't know, it's like unlike any other state that I know about. Basically, I think there are still like 36 or close to 40 local community papers. And while we hear about newspapers closing and things like that, Vermont's local community network of papers is people read them, and that's a way to get their local news, and people are starved for that information. So don't hesitate to reach out to your, whether just that local reporter that or just give a call to a paper. Even if you don't know the reporter, just give a call over. And, if you've seen an article that someone's written about food, or specifically about a topic that relates to what you do, reach out to that reporter. Everyone's always looking for stories and content, And
I think the most important thing to take away from this is, I think we both realize that as we like racked our brains about what we wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
when it comes to getting your event out in the public, we settled on that all of the things that we're going to say seem like very straightforward and seem almost like, oh, well, duh, we could do that. But the key is to just list them out and to make sure you're checking them off one by one in a way that works for your schedule so you don't stress yourself out, and works for, again, what your strengths are and your skills are. So if your strengths are photography, then, perhaps listing your event on in a newspaper that just prints what the date time is, that might not be worth your time, but rather you should be taking some effort to boost the post with all your beautiful photos of your farm around the event.
Yeah.
So again, it comes down to taking stock of what you're already doing, planning out what you want to do and how you're going to have it done, and doing it in a way that, again, works for your schedule. I think that's the biggest thing, because the worst thing that I think anybody can do is to start off and sprint out of the gate with all of this and then let it fizzle out, because it's just going to be disappointing for you, and it's going to be disappointing for the efforts that you put in right in the middle. So take a really good and be honest about your time commitment that you have to be able to do these things, because ultimately the community wants to come out and support you, and they just need to know about it. And then it just takes a slow, steady drumbeat of them hearing about it for them to actually move their feet and get onto your farm for your event for Open Farm.
Yeah, and I had a slide that said this, but I'm just going to say it. Here's the big secret. It's not a secret at all. You all know the answers. Everyone knows everyone, if you have a farm, if you have a location, the best places on your land and your farm to take pictures. The fact that your dog does a funny trick, or the sheep do something, or you've seen it. It happens every day. Maybe you don't notice it anymore, but think about it as if you were a reporter. Wake up one morning and be like, okay, I'm going to try to look at my place with new eyes, and just be like, and just kind of take stock that way. We're talking about taking stock, but just that's the answer. Everyone, you talk to people at the farmers market, you talk to people at the store, and that's what marketing is, and communications, and whether it's, verbal talking like we're doing it conversationally, or it's writing a note or taking a picture, those are all different ways to get the word out and to help people understand who you are and who your farm is. If I think that, if we talk about just photography as a kind of an example, and we can do writing too, but I'm just going to say, I think a big part of it is make sure you have a range of pieces of content. So, we're going to be posting up a one sheet with more information about this. So let me just say this. If anyone has questions, please put it in the chat box. We're happy to cover anything specific, or, bigger, that's okay too. But I think that if you're looking at kind of coming up with a list of things you want to do, let's say your shot list, and I'll just go back to that visual thing. You need to show, we love the wide shots of farms and they're gorgeous, but it's also about the details. It's about the details of your farm, the type of sheep you have, or your chickens, or the way some of your products grow in the fields, and that the stages of that. It's really about just getting a range of whatever you decide to move forward with, and that's what I truly believe that, everyone, you guys know the answer already, but it's just a matter of kind of like, okay, so where should if I wanted to show my farm, what would be the shot that I would show? If I were to take someone on a tour, where would I take them? Or what would I tell them? Shane, I'm sure you run into this where, sometimes the best way to consider about the messaging to get out is, what do people ask you on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis? And that's the first place to start, right?
Definitely. And I think too, if nobody has any questions right at this moment, Tara and I are very much open to having those one-on-one conversations, especially if somebody, like, say, is really trying to dive a little deeper into something technical, such as like boosting a Facebook post, and how to most effectively do that. So I wouldn't hesitate to reach out with technical questions like that, or to also, to Tara's point, like, say you have a couple ideas that you want to run by, but you feel a little nervous or it's outside your comfort zone, send it to us and we'll give you our honest opinion. Again,
Yeah.
You all know this. Everybody, it's all inherent. And like everything we said, I'm sure probably wasn't like a light bulb moment, but at the very least, what I hope it did is lead you to think about other avenues and the other small steps that you can take to be able to get your event out into your.
Yeah. I think that's, that's what's important. Also, and you were saying that about, even if it's just an idea and you're not sure about, don't hesitate to reach out, because it might pique something that you may say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. And we might be like, oh, well, you might want to consider this, this, and this, or here's an idea, or even that's a great idea. And which is probably what we'll say, Shane, right? It's because everyone,
Definitely.
you know what I mean? Like, that's sometimes another perspective is always nice, but it's also about trusting yourself, I think. And part of it too is just, I mean, when I think about social and we work at VFN, we have the Vermont Fresh Network Social, we have the Dig In Social, you have Rooted in Vermont Social. But honestly, it's about being friendly, informative, and helpful. That's what it all comes down to, right? And walking around, going on farm tours and during open farm week, it doesn't really get better than that, right? You're outside, it's August, and you're learning about things, or you're eating things or whatever. So it's, and people want to do that.
Definitely. And it looks like we do have a question from Betty, right? So she says, I'm looking for specific boosting or Facebook ad help. I've done it several times with not many new sales, so I wonder what I'm missing.
You want to show a little bit? Would you want to bring up an example, or?
I might be able to.
Get it ready, and then you can take over if you want to. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think for those who have taken the chance and kind of have dived into Facebook boosting, it can definitely be a little overwhelming. There's plenty of options all around. So Betty, I think to your point, my suggestion, without having been able to look at what you've done and what you've boosted in the past, let me see if I can share my screen.
Okay, tell me if you.
What you've done in the past. Are you able to see my screen? I think.
Yep, it's right here.
I think it's probably going to come down to your audience and the people that you are selecting to be able to have your post boosted, right? So one of the things that is really, really nice about boosting Facebook posts, and this comes from literally just clicking that boost available, and there's also other ways to create campaigns, is to be able to choose people you choose through your targeting. So for those who aren't familiar, as you can see, you can set a whole wide range from the type of gender to, like, for instance, the age. So like in Betty's example, you would definitely not be choosing 13-year-olds because I can't imagine that they're coming to the farm to buy. But also, like, you may not be choosing people in their 20s either, because they also at the same time may not have that the income that is going to those types of purchases. So to Tara's point, when you're thinking about your audience, you really want to think about who are your customers at the base of it and who is already buying your product, and kind of emulating that who you're specifically boosting towards. And really, the worst part about all this is there's no silver bullet. So I would never suggest just going all in with all of your budget all at once. I think it definitely comes down to testing out what you think is going to work best, and kind of comparing and contrasting what ends up resonating really well with the audience that you want to reach and what ends up not resonating. So this not only includes like picking the audiences, but also like the but for those who are familiar, you can see when you go in to like choose your audiences, you end up having, it's literally hundreds of different interests and different things that you're able to target for people that may want to buy. So like, for instance, if you have someone that, you know, really likes local food, you can type local food in and choose that as an interest. So it's people that are in Vermont between the ages of 13 and 65, both genders, that have identified through their clicks on Facebook that they like local food. Is it a little creepy? Absolutely. But it is a tool that's available to us, and you know, we're not using it in a way to,
We're not using it for evil purposes.
exactly.
Yeah. But hey, I have a question actually, and this may help everyone. So how do you decide how as regards money, basically? So do you do a larger amount over a shorter period of time, a smaller amount over a larger period of time? How do you think about that? How do you go about thinking about, should I do $5 a day or $10 a day? Should it go over a week? You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great question. As I mentioned, I would never advocate for putting all your money in right off the bat and just like blowing it all away. Personally, what I found to be most successful is putting in anywhere from $2 to $4 a day, depending on your budget, and spanning that out over like say a week or 2 weeks, depending on what type of message that you're putting in there. I found a lot of success with that, in a way that it allows you to have some longevity to the advertisement with also being able to function on a shorter budget. Of course, if you're going to put in a lot of money right off the bat, you'll definitely get a lot of clicks. But I like to think that as it kind of spans out over the week, it's going to be a little bit more selective, and the people that are clicking through it may be able to see it once or twice or a couple times, depending on how you set up the rest of your parameters.
And something else to consider, maybe, and you can speak to this. So when you try boosting, or when when we talk about like, what is success, right? What does it mean when something works? Or if you've boosted something, did it not work or work? Or how do you, it's about measuring whether it works. Can you talk a little bit about like measurement in that way? Like, how do you know a boosted post worked, basically?
Yeah, I think
That's a scientific way of explaining it, but I'm just saying, how do you know it was a success?
yeah, and that's a great question. Social media luckily provides a lot of analytics. The way that I measure success is success through engagement. So I'm trying to pull it up right now, but my internet is being a little wonky. But Facebook does a good job at providing insights for your social media posts. And the reality is, while it may feel great to see that your post reached, say, 10,000 people, when it's just eyes on your post, like that doesn't necessarily, it's never, just eyes on your post is never going to translate to a sale. It's never going to translate to an action. What you're really going for is the engagement on your post, because while it may be a small thing, and we've seen this play out, that social media doesn't always transfer to real world action, still having people take that time to click like, to leave a comment, or to click the link that you provide is definitely my measure of success.
Yeah.
Now, also when it comes to sales, though, you are adding in another layer that as a nonprofit, I feel kind of lucky to not have to deal with. But it's also with the understanding that just because you didn't necessarily get a specific sale off of a specific boost doesn't mean that that advertisement wasn't successful.
Yeah.
Back
Shane,
to
a question here in the chat.
Yeah.
Betty asks, how do I choose to boost a post or place an ad?
How do you choose? That's a great question. So when you make your regular post, say it's let's just take it for example like an event, like come out to my farm on August 13th. We are having X, Y, and Z, and you press send and you include your beautiful picture with it. Immediately, what will be available to you is going to be a button, especially if you have a business account, that says boost send or boost post. So that's a very easy way to be able to go in and get right to the nitty gritty, especially if you're not too familiar with the back end of Facebook or the back end of Instagram. It's a really easy way to get right in and to jump to the important things: your gender, your age, your location, and the variable of interest that you want the people to target. So that's like one way. And here's where you can see, I can just click this boost post button right here, and it pops up a dialog box that you're able to jump right in that you saw earlier.
Yeah. There's another
Now,
question. Do you have the chat open?
It's just not showing because of my.
So basically, she says again, many of my daily posts don't include direct contact or sales info. So I boost a post, I might not have that.
That's okay. So that's where if your goal is to not just raise awareness for your page or raise awareness for your business, there is when you go into your business side or even on your personal Facebook account, there's this thing called Ads Manager. And if you see on the left side of what I'm sharing, and when you click on Ads Manager, it opens up into an interface that allows you to create an advertisement. So basically think of it as, rather than posting, you get to build your ad to whatever specification that you want. And this is where it can also get a little overwhelming, especially for those who don't do it often. And even for myself, I don't always use the Ads Manager because I enjoy how easy it can be to jump right in off of just boosting a post. So if you are looking to increase sales or you're looking to increase attendance at your event, and that's where you want to put a small amount of money, when you go into Ads Manager, you can click Create, and it's just going to walk you through with some pretty straightforward and easy disclaimers of the type of campaign that you want to run, right? A lot of the other options that do get presented, it's always worth making sure you're looking at, but not necessarily. You can switch the guided creation, not necessarily messing around with too much. So as you go into this, it's going to walk you straight through like what you want to do. So if your goal is to drive traffic to your website, over on the right side, if you're not sure what traffic means, it tells you with the definition, and you can go right in. You can set your budget. The biggest thing is just to make sure that you are being very, very straightforward and very methodical, going through all the little clicks and drop-down boxes. And honestly, it'll walk you straight through to be able to create the type of advertisement that you're looking. So like from here, it's going to prompt you to add text and photo and a URL. It's going to do the same thing where it asks you to identify your audience. And then you're going to go through and confirm all of that as you move forward.
Okay. So just so that you know, Shane, we're coming up on, it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and I think the important thing, again, as we kind of dive into the, I guess, more nuanced details of like boosting on social media, which always can seem a little bit overwhelming, is Tara and I are here to help. I'd be happy to have like, a 15-minute conversation and walking through or like thinking through ideas, but also it doesn't have to be difficult or stressful. It is something that there are ways to be able to boost your event that doesn't necessarily have to come with wanting to pull your hair out because you're dealing with it. So I hope that what we were able to get across is that you really have all this power at your fingertips and in your community. And it's just making sure that you kind of remember that it's there and how easy it is.
Yeah, that's really what it is. And yeah, I mean, we all have everyone's so busy in the summertime, and so it's really about, like we were saying at the very beginning, coming up with a manageable plan and try not to do too much. And I think that sometimes social media, but social media can be a little confusing. We didn't even talk about the algorithm, but or metrics and things like that. But I would say that, for anyone having an event, and because there's a reason you're having people come to your farm. There's a reason you want to, start having events at your farm. Maybe this is your first one, or you want to get more people on your sign up for your CSA, or more customers, things like that. But really, it's just, while just try to keep that relationship going with people. Right beforehand, I think the key for me is when I talk about social media or even anything, just we want people to engage. The bottom line, I think I mentioned this in my email. We want people to come to the farm. That's the bottom line, right? We want people to come to your event, and but also continue that relationship, right? And there we go. So if anyone has any more questions, please don't hesitate to. I'm going to take the screen over for a second, and let's see here. Please don't hesitate to, like I said, you guys know all the answers. Really, you can do what you want. You know how to communicate what you do to customers already, and just use those skills there for that. But if you have any questions, send us an email to Vermont Open Farm Week at vermontfresh.net, or we'll also be after this webinar. I'll be sending out an email with our contact information too. So please don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. Even if, as Shane was saying, you just need some feedback on something. We're happy to help. Were you muted?
Yeah, I'm muted. Okay. But seriously, feedback, I know it can go a long way just to have your opinion confirmed that what you're putting out there is definitely worthy of having put out there. So that's why we're here, and we're happy to bounce some ideas too. That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Shane. And thank you, folks, for joining us today for lunchtime marketing talk. I guess we're going to have a show, Shane, I think.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, if you guys have any other questions too that are a little bit more in depth than the broad overview of just ways to get your event out to the community, feel free to send those along too, and we can at least point you to the right resources or have a quick conversation.
Yeah,
to the best of our knowledge.
Yeah, I'll be sending you an email out, and also we have a one-pager for information, and those that templated those posters that I showed earlier, that'll be included also. So I guess that's it. I hope everyone has a great Open Farm Week, and we look forward to seeing everyone's event, because there's so many fun events going on this summer. So
definitely
Open Farm Week, yeah. So all right, thank you, folks, and. we'll see you soon then. All right. Bye bye. How do I?
Yeah. Just click out.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.